Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio 365 Sports. Our good buddy Matt Tait from New Orleans joins us. Kansas playing for a national title. And I live with Matt, I've told you this, I live with a Jayhawk fan. She is very excited. She's nervous, confident, and not confident all at the same time. What do you think after the way that Kansas dominated Villanova for the most part in that game that most KU fans are feeling today?
Yeah, I took a poll on Twitter about that earlier this morning, and a lot of nerves, and I think that's the nature of the game, right? Like this is big. Even if you're a 12-point favorite, you still feel that, even if it's not nervous that you might lose, you feel the anxiety of just having to sit around and wait all day, and you're excited and you're trying to work or whatever you're doing, So a lot of nerves, but I think a lot of confidence too, and I think that's probably right. I think that Kansas fans should be very confident, but you're not human if you're not nervous. But I think North Carolina is more than capable, but I think North Carolina is going to have to play a perfect game and get help, and I think Kansas, just has to go play its game. And the way they've looked so relaxed this whole week. The performance they put on Saturday night was, in 20 years of covering this team, I've never seen a team look that relaxed. And for that to happen, and then them to deliver, and it to be on that type of stage, that's remarkable, man. It says a lot about these guys. So I think I'd be really shocked if they didn't have that same demeanor tonight, and I think that leads to good things. So I think your wife should be very, very excited, a little nervous, and pretty confident. Does that help?
Yes, and I'll just correct you, girlfriend for the time being.
Sorry.
We're not there. We're not there yet, but she'll love you saying that. I'll just tell you that right now.
Well, she might propose to you tonight.
Yeah. I doubt it, but it would take a lot of pressure off of me.
Matt, does it feel like somehow Kansas has just been flying under the radar over the last month? I mean, I know they've been talked about and whatnot, and it wasn't just this last weekend with Duke and North Carolina obviously overshadowing everything else, but it just kind of seems like when, from the first round on, when people have talked about the contenders, they're always kind of and Kansas too, they're playing really well. Just kind of it's a foregone conclusion almost. I mean, that is complimentary towards them, but have they just kind of flown under the radar somewhat?
I think definitely, and I think they've loved it. I think that it allowed them to be relaxed from the minute the brackets came out. You heard people talk about Kansas being the most vulnerable or susceptible of the one seed. Obviously, they're the only one that made it this far, so that wasn't accurate. But now none of that stuff matters. I mean,
right.
I think it helps you get to this point, but now it's 1 seed, 8 seed, 2 seed, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's North Carolina's 6 guys against KU's 7 guys basically tonight, and it's a head coach who's been in a whole hell of a lot of these games against a guy who hasn't. And Hubert Davis, I think, is doing an amazing job, and I think he's going to be really good at Carolina. And obviously, he's already off to a great start. But there's something about being here before, and he's been here as an assistant. No question that's valuable. But I just think it's different. I just think it's different. And so I don't really think the head coaching, I'm talking about it more than I should, because I don't think that the head coaching thing really favors one or the other either way. But I think throughout this run, for a Kansas team that's got a bunch of guys that have been dying to get here, they've been able to lean on the experience of their head coach who has been here and help them say, this is how you get there. I know how to do it. Let's do A, B, and C. And if you guys go execute, we'll be there. And so that part's done. I don't think I'd be shocked if there was some crazy, strategy X's and O's type of move that either coach makes tonight. If that happens, it's probably out of a little bit of desperation, really. I mean, it would probably be something like Self has to throw a box and one at Brady Manick because he just can't guard him straight, or something like that. And if that's the case, that's bad news for Kansas. But I don't think these coaches are going to make their money tonight. I think their money's already been made. I think now it's time for the players to go decide this thing. And I think Kansas has more players and better players.
the key matchup, I think, Matt, everybody's going to be looking is Armando Bacot from North Carolina playing on less than 100% of that ankle against David McCormick. And also, people may not realize this, but Mitch Lightfoot will get in there and mix it up and might even cause some problems because of the way that players quite often respond to Mitch and his style of play.
For sure, yeah. I mean, he won't back down. I saw Mitch the other night in pregame, and he didn't have a very good game against Villanova at all. Mm-hmm. But, he's been dealing with that sprained knee, and he told me this week he's all the way back. And then I saw him out there in the pregame warm-ups, and I've never seen the guy so bouncy. So I think that's adrenaline. I think that's the stage, and I think he's, after this many years, he's finally realized this is it for me. I've got to go. And so, just human adrenaline there flowing hard for that guy. And so if Kansas needs him in there, he's ready always. But I think if they need him in there, that's bad news. I think Armando is just so big and long, and I think it would be a really tough matchup for Mitch. He could probably survive a few minutes, like they do. But the one thing negating all of that is exactly what you talked about, which is his ankle injury. I think that's going to be hugely significant. I saw him walking in the hall the other night while I was doing an interview outside of the North Carolina locker room. And, I know that was Saturday night, but he could barely walk. And I think he went back into that game because of adrenaline, and that's, anybody that's ever been hurt and played a sport knows that can happen sometimes. But I'd imagine when he woke up yesterday, that thing was hurting and sore and stiff. And Hubert said all the right things yesterday, that the swelling was encouraging and that he felt good and that he was going to go play. And, what else are you going to say, right? But I think that we'll know pretty quick how effective he'll be. And my guess is he'll be good, but not the difference maker that he would be otherwise. I mean, I just think that ankle, he won't be as explosive on the glass, which is his calling card. Beyond that, a big reason he's so good as a rebounder is his strength and moving guys out. And when you think about trying to plant and push off that ankle over and over and over to move guys, that's way difficult to do, and especially when one of them's a guy like David McCormick, who's big and strong in his own right and leaning back on you. So I think that Armando would have absolutely had the edge head to head in that matchup if he were healthy. But I think that the injury, my guess is he's going to be at 75-80%, somewhere in there, and that's just a pure guess. But that kind of makes that a wash. Then I think that makes it a little bit more even, where Dave can match him up, and Dave can match him up and hang with him a little bit more than maybe he would have.
How much of this team's perfect game plan, and it looked to me the other night, because if you look at the games where they've either struggled or lost, Ochai Agbaji has had slow starts or kind of his rougher nights for the most part. And when he starts out hitting a three and another three and another three, is that really what this team is? I know Remy Martin was the talk of the tournament, but everybody kind of forgot Ochai was a player of the year candidate.
Yeah, I mean, if they get that tonight, they'll win by easy double digits. I just can't imagine it going quite that well. And I think that what was so beneficial about that the other night was that it then gave Dave all the room he needed, because they couldn't leave Ochai, and they knew it. And so then Dave went to work and was just as effective, if not more so. In fact, I do a ranking thing after every game, who played best, one through whatever. And I ranked Dave ahead of Ochai in that game, even though Ochai was unconscious to start the game. But I just thought what Dave did was amazing the other night. And Ochai, delivered, and opened that up for him. So, yeah, the perfect game plan for Kansas is exactly that. I mean, get Ochai going, and if he hits his first shot, you're going to feel good about that, and get Dave going. And if he hits his first shot, you're going to feel good about that too. But really, I think their perfect game plan is something that's really fresh in their minds and they feel really good about, and that's the second half against Miami. And I know we already talked about that, but that, I think, was when these guys went, okay, like now we need to go win a title. Like, we were down. We played a terrible half against a good Miami team. And then we just decided to be better and to do something different. And it worked, and it didn't stop working. And now their confidence has soared. And I think they realize that nobody can keep up with them in transition if they get out like that, if they get deflections, if they get steals, if they create that kind of chaos on the defensive end. And so, Kansas to me is a team that by nature of its personnel and its style and all of that, I mean, scoring points shouldn't be an issue unless you're playing a Texas Tech type of team or somebody that's just known as an absolute defensive juggernaut that you're going to have to grind, which they did all year in the Big 12, So I think when they get out of the Big 12 like they have, I think the points are a given. So I think it's, for me anyway, it's about Kansas and how well they defend. And, there's some tough matchups. The Caleb Love matchup will be tough. I mean, he's a really talented player, but I just think that Carolina plays no bench. They have no depth, and that's a lot to put on a sophomore. And Kansas has the luxury of throwing a couple of different guys at him. It's not just like Ochai has to guard Caleb Love all night. They switch 5 spots most of the time, and they can give Christian Brown a try. They can give DeJuan Harris a try. They can have Ochai try. There's even bench guys that they could bring in to give him a look, So for me, it's about Kansas not letting Love, Manic, or really the entire Carolina offense get comfortable at all. And I think if they're able to do that, especially setting the tone with that early, then I think they score the points they need and they win. I mean, I've got them winning by 12. I know that sounds like a lot, but I think that's where this is headed.
All right, we got one question for a listener, then I have one more. But he was curious on how Bill Self handles that Sunday practice between the Final Four and the championship game. Is it a hard practice? Is it immediate? I mean, how does he handle that?
Yeah, I don't think they probably went for more than 30 minutes yesterday. It was closed, so I don't know, and obviously we haven't seen him yet today. But it's just about, don't do anything to disrupt what's got you here. Keep your routine, keep your confidence, feel good, get in the gym, sweat it out a little bit just to remind you of why you're here. And then, I'm sure a lot of it's film, a lot of it's extra work there, going over the scouting report, things like that. There's no doubt that was a big part of yesterday. But as far as the actual physical practice, at that point you're ready or you're not. And I don't think there's any way that he was like, get on the line. We're going again, running these guys to death or anything crazy like that. I mean, and that's been kind of a theme. He's talked about it a few times here this week. He's been here and he has learned not just by his experiences, but also from some of the coaches that he, was mentored by. He's learned some things that, whether right or wrong, he believes are the way to handle this. And a lot of it is, get guys off their feet, keep them focused, keep them light, keep them loose. Don't make this bigger than it already is. So I'm sure that's what yesterday was about. You guys might not have seen, but Paul Pierce is down here, former KU player, obviously. And he showed up at the team hotel and talked to him for a few minutes last night. And, that stuff's really cool. And it reminds you how big this stage is. Obviously, Carolina, if they want to, can trump that by bringing Jordan down if he's coming, and he probably will be. I don't know, but why wouldn't he? So it's not like KU wins that head-to-head battle. But I think for those players, Paul Pierce is an absolute legend at all levels of basketball, and for him to stand in front of you and say, hey, you're representing guys like me. I didn't get a chance to play in this game, and all of us former alums and things like that, we pay attention to what you guys are doing, and we're damn proud of you. So go handle your business and have fun and let it fly. And I mean, like, I just don't think you can underestimate how important something like that is for 19 to 21, 22-year-old kids to hear. That's freaking Hall of Famer Paul Pierce in there telling you, I got your back, go make me proud. I mean, that's different than hearing it from your coach who's also chewed you apart all year, So it's got to be the hardest day in the history of the world to sit here and be one of these two teams and wait all day. I'm sure they would much prefer a Super Bowl kickoff time, 5 o'clock, let's get it going type of thing, because here it is 4:15 and they've still got another 4 hours. And that's got to be agonizing. I just can't imagine. I've been trying to find a way to kill time, and all I'm doing is writing about the damn thing. So it's got to be hard for those guys. But again, stay off your feet, relax, lock in, and then go do what you've done 39 times before now, and go through your routine and give it your best shot. I think it's obviously going to be a lot of fun. I mean, these games are so awesome. I was here in this very building in 2012 and covered that KU Kentucky title game, and there's just nothing like it, man. And it would be cool if it was KU Butler or KU Virginia or whatever. But I mean, when you add the wrinkle of KU Kentucky then or KU Carolina now, I mean, that's pretty serious stuff right there. That's a big stage and some heavy hitters. So it'll be a wild atmosphere, and I'm sure everybody's going to be really into it on both sides. Obviously, Roy Williams is going to be there. That'll be a very cool thing. The one thing I'm wondering is, back in 2008, Roy showed up after they lost to Kansas, and he had that Jayhawk split sticker slapped on his turtleneck, and he ended up wearing it for the KU Memphis game. And Carolina fans didn't love that at all, but it's a pretty iconic moment for Kansas fans, and so they loved that he was there supporting them. Obviously, he'll be pulling for Carolina tonight because, number one, that's his school and his alma mater, and he recruited most of this roster. So no question there, and he should root for Carolina. But the one that I'm curious about is, did Coach K stick around, and is he going to slap the Jayhawk sticker on because he's so upset with Carolina for ruining the end of his career the way they did? I don't think it's going to happen, but I would imagine crazier things have happened. So if Coach K, if you guys see Coach K on the broadcast with a KU sticker on, step away from your computers and your devices, because the internet will 100% break. It will be ugly.
Yes, it will. And Matt, I'm glad you brought up Coach K, because I did want to ask you, as a big basketball guy, I mean, what were your thoughts on that just whole scene the other night, Duke and North Carolina?
Incredible ending, incredible second half, incredible game. Man, really not about me at all, but I couldn't help but sit there and feel so fortunate to be there watching that. It's a historic time and something that I'll always remember. I went and listened to his press conference afterwards. In 2012, I listened to Coach Calipari give his remarks after winning his first title with Kentucky and the first of his career. And I remember thinking that was pretty neat, to be there for that and write a little about it. And then, to hear this the other night, I mean, the end of such a legendary career. Love him or hate him, you have to respect and appreciate what Coach K's done. So, in fact, I was interviewing a North Carolina assistant who's from Lawrence, grew up in Lawrence. Actually, I went to school with him. I also grew up in Lawrence. And so I was interviewing him outside of the locker room about, hey, you're in the title game now, but you're coaching against the team you grew up rooting for. Let's, get into that. And Coach K came rolling by on the golf cart on his way down to the interview room. And I guess, I don't know if it was on a CBS broadcast or if it was just somebody took video of it or whatever, but there's a video out there of me doing that interview while Coach K is rolling around, and somebody took a still shot of that, and that's cool, man. I mean, I'm certainly nobody, and I'm not too proud to tell you that that's one of the coolest pictures I'll ever have. I mean, that's a memorable thing right there. So, I know Kansas fans on some level would have loved this to be KU Duke, just to see if they could be the team that ended it. But from a matchup standpoint, I think they should be much happier with this draw and not have to worry about, losing to Duke now. So it's been a great week, a great Final Four. I think this is where it should be every year. Maybe I said that to you the other day, but I will keep banging that drum and it'll never happen. But I won't shut up about it. It's the perfect place for the Final Four every year.
Matt, thank you so much for always. We might have to call you again tomorrow, depending on what happens tonight, and just kind of get a recap of it. But thanks for always hopping on with us whenever you do. Great stuff as always, and enjoy the game tonight. I know you got 4 more hours to wait, but just keep writing articles.
It'll go fast. You got it, man. And yeah, thanks for having me. I always appreciate it, and it's fun to talk anywhere in Big 12 country. So, I've enjoyed it a lot. You guys are great, and I think it's pretty cool that the Big 12 has been on Monday night in the last 3 tournaments with Texas Tech and Baylor, of course, and then now Kansas. So a lot of Big 12 love. As you guys know, Scott Drew is the banging the drum of the hardest for the Big 12 crew, and it's pretty cool. It really is, because I do feel like as much as these guys slug it out and scratch and claw and hate each other all 18 games of that regular season, when they get here, they pull for each other. It makes them look good, and it makes the conference look good, and nothing wrong with that. So, yeah, tonight will be fun, but yeah, give me a shout anytime. You know I'm around.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Matt Tait, Lawrence Journal World, with us talking KU basketball. Just 4 hours from now. 4 short hours from now.
Only 4?
Only 4. 9:20 Eastern tip time. I will never – somebody from the networks is going to have to explain to me why a television in San Bernardino, California is more important than one in New York City.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they cater to the West Coast.
The city the Goonies was in versus Philadelphia.
Yeah.
The 2 time zones at the game, the fans from the game, the Central and Eastern, versus,
Yeah, now you got
Yakima, Washington.
You got me thinking about that Goonies city. What city is that in Oregon? I know it's Oregon for sure, but I forget. I've looked it up before. I'm like where they had the filming location, like Astoria, Oregon, something like
Astoria,
that.
Astoria, yeah.
Astoria.
Yeah, Astoria, Oregon. More important than Lawrence tonight.
Man, I'm bad about patience sometimes. I mean, it kind of depends on what the deal is. So I can't imagine having there's nothing that I hate more than sitting and waiting. I mean, I loathe it. I loathe just sitting and waiting. So sitting there in a locker room when all you want to do is get out on that court and play basketball and play for a title and do all that, and having to just wait this, like you said, I mean, it's 4:20 in the afternoon. So they've probably been up for a good 8 hours already, just, kicking around, and they have another 4 before. That's just a long wait, man. But by the time they hit that court, they will be more than ready to go. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I can't. I mean, I know maybe it's kind of a benefit because you do play Saturday night late. You want a little bit of time before you play again on Monday. But
the only bad thing about starting at 5 would be just that it's over by 7:30, and you're just kind of like, it's only 7:30. What's to watch now? But that's my own personal
You could split the difference and say started at 7:30 and not 8:30, where people won't be falling asleep. I think the bigger concern is people will turn off their televisions that aren't engaged in it by the end of the game, and you won't have as many people watching to the end later. You might get